Good morning, everyone. So we are starting with the Angular 1. It might be 1.1, 1.2 or more. What is that we need? We need to know the basics of JavaScript, and in that, I need to know how we can write an external JavaScript. So let's go back to the same example what we have learned with marquee tag in the previous video. I'll make use of that. So I'll go with the HTML. Let me save it as marquee example. So E-try 2021 1. marquee.html. This is my HTML code, and I'll be writing a script here, which is the function fun1, and I'll save it as main.js. You can name anything. I'll call it as main.js file, which is a JavaScript file. Now, going back to the same thing, what we have learned in the previous scenario, this is my HTML. As usual, we'll have the head tag and the body tag. And only request is everyone be on mute. Okay, so we have a head tag and the body tag. And what is the difference what we are learning? It's the same code what we have learned yesterday. I want to make sure that this JavaScript file is included in it. This is your external JavaScript. This is your external JavaScript. So when we have the marquee tag, we need to have an ID attribute with any value what we want to provide. And here you need to specify the script tag open. Script tag should be closed with an attribute src referring to main.js. This is your external JavaScript file. Let me take the pointer. What is that you should remember is that your JavaScript file should be referred into the same folder. You might have multiple folders. Based on that, we need to refer. We learn how to refer. Now, this is the first thing. HTML file and JavaScript file are in the same folder. And when it comes to this marquee tag, I'll write hello world, and I want to control this with the support of JavaScript. That is stop and the start. On mouse over, on mouse out. These two are the events. We call them as events. And according to HTML, it is an attribute. It should refer to the function which you refer. That is fun1. And this will refer to fun2. These two are the functions which is being written here. If not, I'll write it. Function. Now, I'll try to have a variable which is a global variable based on your requirement. So we should know the scope of the variables. Scope of the variables is the visibility. Okay. Now, each function when clicked will refer a variable called x, which will try to bring an element. So if you go back and recall, element refers to an object. Get element by ID, which will refer this MQ. So when we deep dive into JavaScript sessions, I'll try to explain what is the difference between the variable var or this variable var. Why do we need to declare variable? Why we need not have to declare the variable? Those things will be different. So very simple example, x is an object, stop is the function. So coming from a C++ or Java, now think that each one is an object model. So one will be stopping it, the other one will start it. Save it. Now, I'll open this in my favorite browser. You can see this. And if I take the mouse over it, it stops. Same thing, same example. Now, I'll be using the same way a lot of files like this, which will be called as an external JavaScript. Exactly same way, when we start programming for Angular, we need the script given. So I'll go with this one as ng, which is Angular example 1.html. Let me explain you the very basic things here. What do we need? We need to refer the library of Angular, and we'll get it online. And there are two options. One is downloading it to your local machine, or you can refer it using the, which is called as the content. So let me take the body tag, and let me explain you people how Angularjs works. Now observe this. I'll type 5 plus 5. I'll save it, and let me run this in the Chrome. So what do you observe? You will see 5 plus 5 as 5, correct? I'll make it as a browser which is of 200%. Now, this is still 5 plus 5. Let me take the help of the Angular library. Yesterday's example, Angular index file. I'll take this library, this code. I'll copy this. I'll paste it here. Will it make any difference as of now? No, it doesn't make any difference. Let me reload this. I still see 5 plus 5 as the same. Now you can see the difference. We have directive ng app. Now this is an expression. Anything which is being specified within this double flower bracket is treated as a JavaScript object. Now you can see the difference. Now it is showing you 10. Why? Because this is treated as an object. So 5 plus 5 is an expression and it is being converted. Let me remove this. First, let me show you the output. I'll reload this. You can see the output. Now I'll just remove this library, which I'm referring. You can see the output. So what is that Angular is doing? It has MVC model with two-way binding. You'll learn all these things as and when we progress. As of now, just remember this, anything which is being specified. After referring this, if you don't specify this directive ng app, even now you'll see the same result. Now let me paste it first. Let me show you the result. It works. After referring the library, you should specify ng app directive. Ng app directive. Good? Perfect. So this is very basic. You should start understanding from here. So what is there here in this file? If you want to see the file, you can just copy this URL. If you want to make a local copy, paste it. This will be a minified file. Minified file will be not readable. It's not a human readable code. So instead of minified file, you can just remove that MIN. This is your human readable code. If you want, you can read it. This is the library. They have coded it already. If you want to refer it, you can refer it. So let me come back to the next example. So after learning the very basic ng app, now we should start learning the next things which is required. So hope everyone is clear with this one. If you have questions, let me know. This is the beauty of this. So now can I write expressions? Yes, x is equal to like this, it works, and it should. Or I can write like this, ng init, that is stands for initialization, where x is equal to 5 plus 5. And now I'll try to display x only, which is a variable now. It still works. X is equal to 5 plus 5, and it is displaying whatever you will give here. Single quotes, I'll give India plus single quotes myself. I'll save it. I'll reload it. What do we see? We see India, Mysore. Now we are learning a scripting language. All these expressions you can understand only if you come from a JavaScript. Many people call it many name. They call it as JavaScript. Vanilla JS. It's not a nice name. Vanilla JS. Plain JavaScript. So it's nothing but they are talking about JavaScript. If you come from a basic understanding on JavaScript, you'll learn this. Since this training is concentrating on the examples on the Angular, so I just wanted to show you how ng app and ng init works. Now I want to move ahead and explain you people what is MVC. MVC is an architecture, model view controller. Engineering people have a separate subject for this. When you encounter this, you learn it. For now, let me explain you how MVC works. Model view controller. Good. Let me explain you people the basics of MVC. And to do that, I will be taking support. Just understand this one. Let's assume that we are building a web application or any other application. I'll take a web application as a sample. When a client, so I'll use blue color for the client, that is the browser. When it makes a call, to the server in MVC model, we have controller first, which refers to the database or data, which is model, and then we have view. Controller. Let me have a lesser font. Controller is the first one who receives the request. It talks to model, which is data, database. Model is preferably data in the form of variable or database. Then comes the view. Let me explain you the first line. So I'll go with the green line for the request and the pink line or orange for the response. When the client makes a request to this web application, what comes first is request. Request and response are very common in HTTP protocol. A request comes to the controller. Now controller, let me have a better. When it hits a web application, controller is the first person who receives it in MVC model. What will it do? It will redirect it to data if required, or it will check with view, and then this view is sent back as a response. So the client will receive a response in the form of a view. So it's a response. So this is very basic web application model. But in MVC, we have controller, will get a model. So what will happen in the other request? It might be asking for some data. So what it will do, it will just continue with the model. This model is been referred in the view, or controller will check with model. Do you have data what has been requested? It says yes. That request will be given to controller again, and controller will say that, see, I have a data. Can you just see this data and send it back to the client? Or there might be a scenario in a case that it is Model and view can communicate each other. Model is talking to view or view is talking to model directly. In most of the cases, model will be directly sending this. So you might encounter this scenario, but for now, keep it simple. Controller is the person who talks to model and retrieves the data and give it to the view. Anything which is called as a view is the one what client can see. So client is nothing but your browser. Means a person who is sitting and browsing some data. Good with this? This is MVC, Model View Controller. Model View Controller. Who receives the request first? Controller. If you are clear with this one, this is very, very important. This is very, very important to understand how MVC or request response works in MVC model. Good. Let me take a screenshot of this. And I'll be pausing this recording. Thank you. Okay. So here comes your recording. So let's understand the MVC in the Angular. So I'll open a new file. I'll save it as ngmvc.html. And I'll open one more. And here I'll be creating an application which is angular.module. And I'll name the application. Let me call it as Hello World. Hello World app module. I'm not talking about model now, it's module. I'll call it as app.js. And below this scripting which is referring to Angular, I need to write a script to refer. Script tag should be always open and closed. src is equal to app.js. Whatever you want to display within this HTML is the view. Let me remove this. And let me remove this one. ng app. This app will refer to the application name. Now within this, I'll try to have div tag. And I'll write ng controller. And whatever you display here will be your view. You need to name it as a name, that is the controller. Now let's understand the line. So after creating this square bracket is mandatory, we'll try to know what is DI, that is dependency injection. Dependency injection later. Now let me create a controller, app.controller. And within this, we need to write a function. Controller should have a name, comma, the function. This syntax, I've explained it in the jQuery. Controller, my controller, anything you want to name it. This name must be referred here. Application in the body, which is the ng app, ng controller. Within ng controller, we'll have a scope object. $scope. Now, $scope dot x is equal to hello. X is a variable which is visible only within the scope of my controller. So as usual, let me run this. So what do we see here? We see only X. Now what is that I need to do is, how can we debug JavaScript? I'll go to more tools. I'll take developer tools. Let me see what is the error it is throwing. And let me understand. Controller CTF, it is throwing some error, which is in the human readable format. Controller, it is not having It is throwing an error. I need to go here in the app. Let me remove this for now. And let me remove this for now. Let me check whether I have any error. No, I don't have any error. So let me place this first. Control. Let me remove this first. And let me reload this. So we are not getting any output. Access variable is still there. App.js. I have the controller name, the function which has the scope object. And now I need to go back and understand that this code. Controller $scope $.first name John, and it is getting displayed here. This looks good. Any spelling is mistake? I'm not sure. ng controller. Perfect. My controller. Okay, let me copy paste it. I'll call it as Mysore, the controller name. And now, according to the code, we'll have function scope with the name. Okay. $scope.x is equal to hello. I'll save it. I'll save this one and let me try to run it. Can you see this output? Now, this is the basic structure of your, this is the application name. We have a controller. This is the model. Model stands for data. X is a variable and this variable is visible in this controller. Let me go with one more controller and I'll call this one as Bangalore. I need to create app.controller. If you refer this is just like your object-oriented concept. App is an object, .controller is the method which has two parameters, comma. I can even have the function name, fun. Only the function name. So in this, I'll have the name Bangalore. This function must be defined. If I try to type this function, function fun1, and here I will have a variable $scope. Let me try this. So $scope dot x is equal to hello India. Let me save it and as usual let me run it. Am I getting hello world and hello India? Yes. So actually this is how we deal with it. This is the name of the controller. This is the function which has been called here. This is how it has been binded. This function has a variable that is the object in the form of parameter, and this parameter will jump into this. Good. I don't want to write this. Then this function, just observe this. Just remove this. Copy this code. Good. Okay, clear? So let me go back and reload this. Yes, it works. Now I'll just change it. Hello India in the first controller Mysore. Second controller, I'll go with hello Mysore. I'll save it. I'll reload it. This is the view. This is the view. This is the controller. And this is the model. M-O-D-E-L. Module is an application name. Module is an application name. So this is the very basic fundamental what we have learned about HTML, in which we have ng-app directive and each div. So one application has two controllers. The syntax, people have to practice it. And if you observe the typing style of mine, it will be very easy. And I have even explained how the functions are binded. And this is the same function without a name because we are writing within this scope itself. I'm not talking about this scope, talking about the coding one. Good. The basic of your Angular 1. We have many things to do, many things to operate. So we'll try to see that in the next video. Thank you.